Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 52. Night of the Prophets. Part 4. A red aura appeared around the meteorite and glowing lights shot all over the platform. Oh! Finally! A prophet screamed. Yong Hee-won and Lee Hyun-sung quickly approached me. Run away? What? It was too late. The red aura spread across the platform and a faint veil surrounded the station. Now none of the prophets would be able to leave Anguk Station. The constellations protest against the excessive filtering. Many constellations' eyes are shining at the omen. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is watching this situation with curious eyes. The constellation Secretive Plotter is expecting your brilliant strategy. The constellations were excited and sent me indirect messages. The most dangerous situation in the world of ways of survival was one where the constellations were partying. I asked the nervous young Minseob, was number 1124 the one who suggested that you gather here today? Huh? I don't know. We all agreed together. I felt clogged up, like someone had fed me 10 sweet potatoes. I couldn't believe things had gone this far. Everybody moved behind me. I paid attention to the meteorite while protecting them. Aren't we running away? We can't go. If you look behind, you can see a ward. Huh? What ward? I didn't answer as I stared at the meteorite in the center of the platform. Meteorite was the main event in the fifth scenario. The danger sleeping inside the meteorite would differ depending on the color, brightness, size, and type. However, the meteorite I was looking at now was one that should never hatch. They seemed confused because the meteorite that gave the star relic in the third regression was bright red. I wonder what star relic will appear. That. Some prophets hadn't noticed yet and touched the meteorite. An omen of the fifth main scenario has appeared. Then the message popped up. Eh? What is this? Why suddenly the main scenario? The surface of the meteorite cracked and a red light poured out. The first thing the light touched was the prophet staring at the meteorite with wonder. The body of the prophet who lost his head slowly fell to the ground like a broken doll. What is going on? The prophet screamed and retreated, but they were already unable to escape the crisis. I took the party with me as I retreated to the edge and observed the situation. I remembered seeing this type of meteorite in Ways of Survival, but it was tricky to know what would come out. Please, don't let it be that disaster. The meteorite cracked and red lava poured out. The surrounding platform burned and released a bad smell. Then the temperature of the air rose rapidly and breathing became painful. The surrounding environment was changing. This, a lava zone? It meant the fifth grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, has appeared. Fuck. What? The star relic. Several confused prophets belatedly used skills. However, the meteorite stretched out a long tail and caught a few escaping prophets. Quackhack. The body of the prophet that caught by the tail suddenly burned up. Some prophets used skills to attack the tail, but their weapons started to melt. This monster. The meteorite was at most 2 meters in length, but the monster crawling out from the gap was over 5 meters long. Yong Hee-won asked. What the hell is this? It is a disaster. Disaster? The remainder of the meteorite split apart and a dragon species entered this dimension. Ku. A violent dragon that was just born. Despite being a deteriorated version of a hatchling, a dragon still reigned at the apex of all monsters. A 6th grade monster could wipe out all the prophets here, and this was a 5th grade fire dragon. You John Hyuknim. Some of the prophets called out to me, and all attention was still focused this way. I frowned. The incident was caused by them, yet they wanted me to solve it? Get back to the edges. Like an obedient puppy, everyone moved to a corner of the platform. The guys who were quick were already running upstairs from the platform. But shit, there's a ward. The lesser dragon was a disaster. In a situation where a disaster appeared, the size of the despair was different. At least, this was the pattern I knew. Among Yu Jonghyuk's numerous regressions, he had definitely faced this guy. I looked at the party members. A hidden scenario will soon start. Hidden scenario? This is a guy who shouldn't have come out in the fourth scenario. It has an unusual difficulty, so there will soon be an intervention. In order to respond to this disaster, various benefits were needed in the fifth scenario. For example, if the blue meteorite came out. But now we had nothing. Yes, something had to be given to balance us. Some constellations are complaining about the unusual scenario difficulty. Indeed. The next moment, sparks flew in the air and a small childlike presence appearance. It wasn't a low-grade dakibi like Baihyun. He wore a tidy suit with 2 little horns on his head. He was an impressive guy with a small lump protruding from his side pocket. I didn't know his name, but I knew what he was. He was an intermediate dakibi. HRMM. This is difficult. How did you guys get this route? It was only installed recently. Once his voice rang out, the movements of the lesser dragon stopped. Indeed, it was possible for an intermediate dakibi to intervene in the scenario to this level. A disaster woke up in the fourth scenario? The emergence of an intermediate dakibi meant that the early scenarios had almost come to an end. As long as he took notice of this place, I would barely be able to see the contract benefits with Baihyun. Some constellations are poisonous, so I can't spare you. It is also hard to downgrade the difficulty. His gaze focused on me. But this isn't right. We haven't cleared the fourth scenario. One prophet shouted. I could see the prophets around him quickly covering his mouth. There was nothing good about yelling at a dakibi right now. I have decided. I won't downgrade the difficulty. The prophets glared at the dakibi. There was only the sound of breathing. They had read Ways of Survival, so they would know. The dakibi couldn't overturn the laws. But they also knew this. Still, it won't be interesting if you all die this way. I will use my discretion to change the scenario content. The dakibi was more talkative than I thought. The hidden scenario has arrived. The lesser dragon started moving again. The red leather-covered paws hit the floor of the platform. I avoided the scattered debris and looked at the scenario that arrived. Plus. Hidden scenario, united you die, scattered you die, category, hidden. Difficulty, A. Clear conditions, within the time limit, hunt down the lesser dragon Igneel or survive his attacks. Time limit, 20 minutes. Compensation, 3,000 coins. Failure, death. Hidden pieces are hidden in this mission. Plus. A 20-minute survival mission. From the title to the contents, it was ridiculous. Lee Hyansung asked. Do we have to hunt him? No, don't even dream about it. This disaster is a disaster for a reason. Even the real Yu Jonghyuk couldn't catch a 5th grade fire dragon. I looked at the situation on the platform. Flowing flames started pouring out. Qua 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 qua. Quack. The prophets caught in the flames turned to ashes. The walls burned by the flames melted and distorted terribly. He was slowly moving to this side. Everyone ran counterclockwise. I opened my mouth and ran ahead of the rotation direction. Fortunately, Yong Hee-won and Lee Hyun-sung followed me well. Yong Min-seob and Lee Sung-kook were a bit behind, but they still seemed okay. This time, we avoided it because I knew the pattern. The problem was that this type of attack wouldn't always occur. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneel, is preparing the flames of destruction. It had started. We somehow avoided the general attack, but the crisis came now. Look for a foothold. Yes? Number 5, or 2 and 3. Anyway, just quickly find something that adds up to 5. A hidden piece is activated. Numerical footholds are activated. Once the appropriate number of people enters the foothold, Absolute Shield can be activated in 10 seconds. Absolute Shield won't activate when the number on the foothold is exceeded. The prophets all heard this system message. At the same time, footholds the size of 2 pion appeared all over the station. Footholds? Ah, right. There is a hidden piece. I looked at the moving prophets and bit my lips. The giggling constellations reflected in my eyes. Why did many constellations protest against the difficulty of the scenario? It was simple. There was no fun in a story with only death. They didn't want ants being trampled by a giant. These guys wanted the ants to fight back, to survive. In order to live, the ants would even bid at their kin. Many constellations are watching the situation with excited eyes. Damn constellation scum. Shit, go. Kuhik. The prophets, who had called each other's numbers in a friendly manner, now wielded their weapons against each other to fight over the footholds with the number 1. Some prophets collapsed bleeding as they approached a foothold. The swift prophets were already stepping on the footholds, strengthening their alertness. I kept an eye on them. Someone had clearly planned this trap. Maybe they were the apostles. They knew the prophets would gather her and decided to use this opportunity to wipe out those who stopped reading early. It was a good idea. No matter how trivial the information, the fewer who knew the future, the better. Usually, the apostles would be laughing at the prophets from far away. If they were ordinary people. Those who read more than 50 chapters of a boring novel weren't normal. They called themselves apostles and were greedy enough to control information. If they were intelligent enough to use the red meteor as a trap, wouldn't they know how to overcome the disaster? If I was like this. Representative Nim. There is no foothold. There is nothing here. Young Hee-won and Young Min-seob cried out urgently. There were no footholds in the place where Out Party was located. Oh, there is one here. But the foothold that was barely found had an ominous number. 4. In other words, only 4 people could survive on that foothold. But our party had 5 people. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, is using the flames of destruction. A huge spark started from the center of the platform and started to spread throughout the station. It was a lesser dragon's full attack skill. The heat was enough to burn my skin, despite being so far away. If the shield wasn't activated now, my party would be destroyed. Our representative Nim? Lee Sung-kook and Young Min-seob trembled as they met my gaze. I grasped the handle of unbroken faith. At that moment, Yu Jong-hyuk Nim. I looked back and saw one prophet. The number 2 was written on his foothold. Despite the urgent situation, this man still looked relaxed. Come this way. This guy. A few memories passed by quickly. I ran towards him while shouting at the people behind him. Activate the shield. Absolute Shield is activated. Coo. Then the flames burned everything on the platform. If it had touched me just a little bit, then I would have melted. Sigh. I'm glad. The man who triggered the shield at breathtaking timing sighed with relief. I asked him, "Who are you?" The man laughed lightly. I'm disappointed. Have you already forgotten? I am number 1168. About Asmodeus. I remembered. He was the one who spoke to me about Demon King Asmodeus. That isn't my question. The eyes of number 1168 shook. I hadn't thought about it before. The scene of the confrontation between Demon King Asmodeus and Yu Jonghyuk. To be precise, the second regression, Yu Jonghyuk, was one-sidedly beaten by the Demon King. It was a scene I remembered because I really liked it. However, this recollection didn't appear before chapter 50. I could say it with certainty as the full reader of Ways of Survival. I pulled out my blade and opened my mouth. I will ask you again. Who are you? Due to the effect of your exclusive attribute, the memory effect of some scenes have increased. The story of Demon King Asmodeus appeared exactly in chapter 57 of Ways of Survival. A crack started to spread in this man's relaxed expression. Chapter 53. Night of the Prophets. Part 5. The self-styled number 1168 looked at the flames beyond the shield and asked, "My identity? What are you talking about suddenly? Have you forgotten? I have Sage's eyes. In fact, this guy's information wasn't available to me. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. The information of this person can't be read in character list. This person isn't registered in character list." What was the difference between an updated person and a non-updated person? I still didn't know the exact reason why. But whatever the reason was, deceiving this person wasn't difficult. It was because he believed I was Yu Jonghyuk. I didn't think Yu Jonghyuk Nim would notice. You are an apostle. Right? That's right. You already knew it. The fact that he said it so easily meant there were ulterior motives. This is a trap. Is it because of the butterfly effect? Haha, that's right. I wondered if my words were funny as number 1168 smiled and looked at the other people around. If there are a lot of flying butterflies, unnecessary storms will happen. The prophets who couldn't find a foothold were melting like moths in the midst of the flames. The terrible screams and the information they knew disappeared into dust. It was the price they paid for trying to obtain a star relic without the proper information. You are killing the larvae before they become butterflies. The larvae that are about to become pupa are the easiest to kill. The fierce heat died down and the chemical reactions in the surrounding area were subsiding. The absolute shield was soon turned off. After 1 minute, the positions of the footholds will be recreated. The hidden scenario would end when footholds appeared 10 times and they survived the attacks. We had just passed one, so there were 9 left. I tried pressing against the shield with my feet. The heat was high, but it was enough to endure. Representative Nim. I waved my hand to stop those running from afar. Now wasn't the time to take care of them. The attack patterns are familiar, so please learn them and avoid them on your own. I can't take care of you right now. The party members noticed something strange and stopped moving. In a situation where the power of the apostles wasn't clear, it was dangerous to drag them with me. Number 1168 looked at me and said, "This isn't like what I saw in the Book of Revelations. Is this really your third regression?" Shut up. Where did you get off? HRMM? You would know if you checked it yourself. I like a person who is the same on the outside. I can't make a deal with a person who has 2 different sides. The apostle's eyes widened. How interesting. There must be a reason why you would so easily identify yourself. The tail of the lesser dragon flew through the air and struck the spot where we were. It was easy for me to avoid it with my over level 30 agility. However, number 1168's astute movements were amazing. I triggered calm observation that I got from Theater Dungeon. It was a skill I saved for those who character list didn't work on. His perspiration, speed, breathing interval. The sum of his physical body stats was around 4950. It was a significant level among the prophets I had seen. I moved behind him and he opened his mouth. I'll formally greet you. I'm number 1195. Among the apostles, I am the 5th apostle. The number of views for Ways of Survival's first chapter was 1,200. If he was 1,195, he was among the top 5 of the latest people to stop reading. Then he knew about the red meteorite. What is your purpose? Do you also need my help? Hoo. To save you Jonghyuknim, what would you say to that? It is more plausible than the lie about mosquitoes becoming butterflies. Indeed, you have lie detection. He licked his dry lips. Should I do it now? No. A little bit more. Just listen a bit more. However, I'm not lying about my desire to save you Jonghyuknim. Things would be difficult if you die here. The revelations will be greatly ruined. You knew I was coming. We discovered it a few hours ago. Therefore, we hurriedly revised the plan. There were sparks, and a few more prophets near us died. There were still those who were hanging on. It was like they knew the patterns of the lesser dragon. I kept an eye on those people. Originally, we had no plans to participate. If only Yu Jonghyuknim wasn't here. So? Don't you already know the answer? The positions of the footholds will be created. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneel, is preparing the flames of destruction. My party members successful found footholds this time. The Apostle and I also found a foothold that fit 2 people. To be precise, the Apostle tossed the person already occupying it out with force. The drops of blood landed on the brutal Apostle. He wiped it off and said, "We have to slay the lesser dragon." Coo. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneel, is using the flames of destruction. The absolute shield activated and once again blocked the flames. Coo. Only 2 stages had occurred, but there were less than a quarter prophets remaining. The party members had been keeping pace, but it was uncertain how long they would last. A hidden peace penalty has occurred. The number of footholds created in the next turn will be reduced. I spoke with narrowed eyes. With your power alone? It is possible. I have prepared enough. I felt uneasy as I heard his confident voice. That reminded me, he was shedding a single drop of sweat in this heat. A bluish chill spread over his skin. This was... I see. Their preparations were outstanding. It is the ice pill. That's right. A pill that had a certain probability of appearing when a 7th grade elemental species was hunted in the Gangseogu area stations. They already managed to get their hands on this pill. It would release a powerful ice attribute for at least 30 minutes. In other words, they had a foundation to hurt the lesser dragon. The problem was the attack power. It is impossible with you alone. Who said I was alone? I looked at the survivors. There were a few people I was particularly keeping an eye on. I looked closer and saw that their bodies were covered with a bluish chill. Hoo, how can I come here alone? I counted, and there were 5 of them. They had committed half their power for this operation. The 5 apostles must have confidence after eating the 5 ice pills. But a few more people won't make a big difference. That's why I am seeking help. I will give an ice pill to you Jonghyuknim if you decide to help us. If I refuse, all of you Jonghyuknim's party members here will die. Do you think you will be safe like that? Even if we can't take care of the lesser dragon, we can at least take care of our bodies. He was brimming with confidence. They would have already lost their heads if I was the real Yu Jonghyuk. Do you think I am worried about my party members? People die anyway. I can gather other people. I raised unbroken faith to his neck. Then he shook his head. Hoo, you are truly like the revelations. But you better think carefully. What do you mean? By now, Yu Jonghyuknim's main base would have entered our hands. What? Maritime Admiral Lee Jai-hai, a child who uses strange abilities. and one of the 10 evils. It is different from the original revelation, but you have made a fairly good party. If they all die, won't you Jonghyuk-nim face problems starting again? They had already investigated up to here. These bastards. Won't it be worse if we take away Chunmuro Station? Right now, it is just a proposal. But don't think this proposal will last forever. Our group has already completed the King's Road scenario by taking over 10 stations. You should know the gap between a group with a king and a group without a king. Perhaps the situation would already be over by now. The king will be waiting for you Jonghyuk-nim's choice in front of Chunmuro's flag holder. I see. I knew their plan. These guys, they planned to hit Chunmuro from the moment they received information I was coming to the Night of the Prophets. If you pledge to join us, we will promise the safety of your party as well as our full support in the future. This is a promise on the king's honor. My heart was pounding from the precise threat. They were actually this bold against you Jonghyuk. It was rare to find this in someone who read Ways of Survival. Who is your king? Where did they get off? The king dislikes being called someone who got off. So what do you call them? Even if you are Yu Jonghyuk-nim, please refrain from speaking about him like that. He is the only one among the prophets who has read all the revelations. He knows both Yu Jonghyuk's past and future. What? I was surprised for a moment, but didn't greatly panic. This was interesting. There was another reader who read all of the novel? Laughter emerged. It was a ridiculing laugh. It was because there absolutely couldn't be such a thing. Coo! Finally, the third attack of the fire dragon was about to begin. I looked at the apostle and quietly stepped out of the foothold. The bewildered apostle asked as I walked forward. You Jonghyuk-nim? What are you doing? The party members far away were also surprised. I waved my hands. Don't worry. No matter what happens, you absolutely can't move from there. Understood? I walked in the direction of the lesser dragon. It was with slow but sure steps. The fire dragon stared ferociously at me as it prepared the flames of destruction. What are you doing? Come back! The apostle behind me hastily exclaimed. I turned around and smiled at him. Did the king tell you about this future? As I listened to him, I kept thinking. These guys shouldn't be alive. But they had a strategy, and I couldn't kill them all by myself. If so. I laughed and continued talking. You guys, have you forgotten what my stigma is? If I was them, what would they fear the most right now? I'm not afraid of death. I can just start over again. The answer was simple. They believed I was Yu Jonghyuk. If that was the case, I wonder, what will the effect be on you? You are unusual presences in this turn. The most fearful thing to them was what I feared most. If I die here, will you exist in the next turn? Or will you end with this world? They didn't want Yu Jonghyuk to die. If you really read the revelations, you should know the answer, right? The apostles' faces paled. There were times when it was easier to handle those who used their heads. Yu Jonghyuk. The 5 apostles moved from the footholds and started to run towards me. I knew it. No matter how unconcerned they pretended to be, they were people who got off and were caught up in this scenario. What would happen to them in a world where the protagonist was dead? They didn't know. Catch him quickly. Just like me. The 5th grade fire dragon species, Lesser Dragon Igneal, is using the flames of destruction. The moment that flames burst out from the center of the platform, I exploded all the strength in my muscles and ran towards the legs of the dragon. Then I put my flag into the flag holder of Anguk Station located there. You have occupied Anguk Station. Currently occupied, Chunmuro, Main Base, Myeongdong, Dongdaemun History and Culture Park, Dong Demon, Dongmyo, Sindang Station, Chonga Station, Yaksu Station, Sinsealdong Station, Enguk Station. The achievement points of the brown flag are rising. You have occupied 10 stations. The hidden scenario, King's Road, has been achieved. Depending on the path you walk, you will receive a new king attribute. 1. King of Arrogance and Hypocrisy. 2. King of Solitude and Taste. 3. King of No Killing. 4. I replied without reading the rising options. King of No Killing. The new attribute, King of No Killing, has been obtained. This was enough. I hadn't wanted to do this, but it was necessary to get rid of the people here. The apostles discovered the flames and hurried back to the footholds. However, it was already too late. You should have been careful. You only have one life. The wave of flames covered them. It was an attack that couldn't be endured even if they ate the ice pill. The durability of the external enhanced suit has decreased dramatically. The durability of the external enhanced suit has run out. My vision soon became dim. There was the feeling of flesh being burnt and I lost consciousness. You have died. A moment later, a system message was heard. The privilege of the King of No Killing is activated.